The diamond necklace sparkled inside the small velvet box, catching the warm evening light that poured through the tinted windows of Kelvin's sleek black SUV. He smiled to himself, gently running his thumb over the box as the car sped quietly through the streets of Victoria Island. "To the woman who gives me peace," he whispered. Kelvin had cut short his boardroom tour that afternoon. A sharp headache pulsed behind his eyes during the final department report. Normally, he would have checked on the logistics floor and reviewed analytics with his developers, but this time, he waved them off. "We'll continue tomorrow," he said with a tired smile. His mind was set on just one thing: getting home, surprising his wife, and laying down in peace. Earlier that morning, he'd overheard Mara on a call, pricing a diamond set from her favorite high-end jeweler. It wasn't meant for now, but something in Kelvin told him, why not today? "I'll take both the necklace and the ring," he'd told the jeweler, paying over 500 without blinking. "Wrap it for a queen." That was what she was to him, his queen. From nothing, Kelvin had built his empire, K Cyber Systems, the leading tech company in West Africa, known for its educational software and security intelligence tools. His groundbreaking app could trace criminals using message IDs and call stamps. It was the kind of invention the government secretly admired, but all the riches in the world couldn't prepare him for the surprise waiting at home. As his car approached the gate of their Lagos mansion, he told the driver, "Don't worry, I'll go in myself. Let the kids sleep." He smiled, already picturing Jessica and Jerry jumping on him in excitement, screaming, "Daddy's home." But when he walked through the front door, something felt off. The house was quiet, too quiet. No laughter, no hugs, no, "Welcome home, Daddy." His heart skipped a beat. Maybe they were asleep? He tiptoed across the sparkling marble floor and slowly climbed the stairs. With the gift box tucked neatly under his arm, he headed toward the master bedroom, eager to see the surprise on his wife's face. But it was Kelvin who got the surprise. As he got closer to the bedroom, he heard her voice low, calm, and smiling. She was on the phone. His footsteps froze. He leaned closer, just behind the door. "Don't worry, he'll be dead before morning," she said with a soft giggle. "After he eats the food I made, that's it." Kelvin's heart skipped. "What?" He stepped back, his hand trembling as he clutched the gift. Mara's voice continued smooth and calculated. "No autopsy. I'll say it was his hypertension. He already has a medical history, so no one will suspect anything." Kelvin's mouth dropped open. His knees suddenly felt weak, but it didn't stop there. "I told you, you're their real father. Jerry and Jessica are yours. He's only been raising them for you. The house, the cars, the company, it will all be ours." A pause. A soft laugh. "Yes, baby, I love you. Just a few more hours, and it'll all be over." Something snapped. The gift box slipped from Kelvin's hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. The lid popped open. The diamond necklace rolled onto the marble tile, shining brightly like betrayal caught in a spotlight. Mara turned sharply. Her eyes widened in horror. Kelvin stood by the door, his face pale, his shirt soaked in silent tears, his breathing heavy. "Kelvin," she stuttered. He didn't speak. She rushed toward him, dropping her phone. "Wait, I can explain." He stepped back. "Explain?" His voice cracked. "It was just a joke, a stupid joke. I was rehearsing a movie scene with a friend." Kelvin stared at her. "Eat the food." "What?" she whispered. "The food you made for me. Eat it now." Her legs trembled. "Kelvin, please. Eat the food." She dropped to her knees, crying. "It's not what you think. I love you. I swear, I was only joking." "You weren't joking," Kelvin said quietly, backing away. "You were planning my funeral." He picked up his phone with shaking hands and called his lawyer. "Yes. File for emergency charges. Attempted murder. Infidelity. Fraud. I want her arrested. Tonight." Mara screamed and begged as he walked away. She tried to hold his feet, to grab his arm, to explain, but he didn't look back. He went straight to his car and drove to one of his private hotels. That night, he didn't sleep. His eyes stayed wide open, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how the woman he loved could plan his death while he was alive carrying a gift for her. The next morning, the police arrived. Mara was arrested, but this was just the beginning. The courtroom was silent, too silent for a room packed with journalists, lawyers, and curious onlookers. You could hear the click of every pen, the shuffle of every paper, and the loud ache of betrayal hanging in the air like smoke. At the center of it all stood Kelvin Anderson. He wore a crisp black suit, but anyone watching closely could see the storm behind his calm eyes. He hadn't slept properly in days. The betrayal from Mara, the woman he called my peace, had broken something deep inside him. Yet, he stood tall because he had to. This wasn't just about heartbreak, it was about justice. Across the room sat Mara, dressed in a simple gown, her hair pulled back. Her eyes were swollen from tears, but her hands were still ringed with gold gifts from the man she had tried to destroy. She avoided looking at Kelvin. Beside her was her new Mantha, one who caused all this Johnson. A taxi driver with crooked ambition and a cunning smile. The judge entered and took her seat. Case number 786, the bailiff called. Kelvin Anderson versus Mara Anderson. Charges include attempted murder, marital fraud, infidelity, and child paternity. Deception. A soft gasp rippled through the crowd. Mara's lawyer stood and declared, "Your Honor, we deny all charges. This is a case of miscommunication. My client was rehearsing a joke with a friend. She had no intention of harming her husband." The recording was taken out of context. Kelvin didn't blink. He turned to his own lawyer and nodded. The lawyer pressed a button on a remote. The room darkened. A recording began to play on the large screen behind the judge. Mara's voice filled the courtroom. "Don't worry, he'll be dead before morning after eating the meal. The burial will be simple and fast to avoid any autopsy. You are the father of Jerry and Jessica. He is only training them for you. Once he's gone, the wealth is ours." The room fell into a deeper silence. Even Mara stopped breathing. The judge leaned forward, her face stiff. "Mrs. Anderson, is that your voice?" Mara trembled. It sounds like me, but I was just playing." Kelvin's lawyer stood again. "And if she claims it's just a joke, Your Honor, let's play what she said just after that call, when Mr. Anderson collapsed at the door and she tried to cover her tracks." The second recording played. "It was just a rehearsal. I didn't mean it. I can explain." The judge shook her head slowly, but Kelvin wasn't done. He stood. "Your Honor, if I may." The judge nodded. He pulled a brown envelope from his coat. "I had suspicions," he said quietly. "After what I heard that night, I couldn't let go of everything without being sure. I secretly conducted DNA tests on Jerry and Jessica." Mara gasped. "No, Kelvin, please." The judge waved her hand. Silence. Kelvin continued. "The results show I am not the biological father of either child. Both children share DNA with the man seated beside her, Mr. Johnson." Gasps again. One woman even covered her mouth and whispered, "Jesus." The judge stared at Mara. "Do you deny this?" Mara broke down in tears. "He was never there for me in the beginning. Kelvin was always working. I was lonely. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You mean you didn't mean to get caught?" Kelvin said coldly. The judge turned her head slowly. "This court finds that the defendant attempted to harm her husband with intent to gain access to his wealth and knowingly deceived him about the paternity of his children. This is not just betrayal, it is fraud and attempted murder." She banged her gavel. "Mr. Kelvin Anderson is hereby granted full divorce, effective immediately. No compensation or property shall be granted to Mara Anderson from the plaintiff's estate. The court also grants Mr. Anderson the right to revise his last will and testament." The room erupted. Journalists were already tapping out headlines. "Tech billionaire wins case against wife, who plotted his death." Others whispered, "This is worse than any Nollywood movie." But the most painful part of the day wasn't the verdict. It was what came next. Jerry and Jessica, small children, walked into the courtroom, holding each other's hands. They were escorted in by a social worker. Their faces lit up when they saw Kelvin. "Daddy!" Jessica cried. Kelvin's heart twisted. They ran toward him. "I want to go home," Jerry shouted, tears already streaming down his cheeks. "I miss our house." Jessica held Kelvin's leg tightly. "Please don't leave us, Daddy. We haven't gone to school since that day." The room fell into heavy silence. Even the judge wiped a tear, but Kelvin couldn't speak. He crouched, hugged them tightly, and wept. He had loved these children as his own. He had raised them. Their laughter used to fill the rooms of his mansion. And now? Now, he had no legal right to them. The court had declared they weren't his. He couldn't take them. Not yet. A security guard gently pulled the children away, and Kelvin turned his face away to hide his tears. Mara was led out in handcuffs. Johnson followed her, a crooked grin still playing on his lips. They stepped out of the courtroom and into a waiting police van. But they had no idea that what awaited them wasn't wealth or happiness. It was the cold, ugly face of reality. The one-room apartment reeked of boiled rice and stale regret. Its walls were cracked, the mattress on the floor sagged, and the broken fan rotated slowly, making a faint clicking sound that filled the silence Mara never thought she'd know. She sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes hollow, her body thin, her hair messy. Her fingers trembled as she tried to button Jerry's worn-out school shirt, but she stopped halfway. Because Jerry no longer went to school, none of them did. Johnson, the man she gave up everything for, was slouched in the corner of the room, shirtless, snoring, with an empty bottle of cheap gin beside him. The man who once whispered promises of love and forever now barely looked her way. To him, Mara was no longer a prize just, a problem. The kids, Jerry and Jessica, sat on a torn mat, quietly eating plain Gary. Their eyes were different now. No more sparkle, just sadness and silence. Mara looked at them and whispered, "I'm sorry." But they didn't look at her. They just ate quietly. She remembered the mansion, the smell of fresh flowers in the hallway, the soft piano playing during dinner, the diamond necklace Kelvin gave her on their 9th anniversary. She once danced in the living room barefoot, holding her babies, laughing at nothing. Now, she barely had slippers. Life had stripped her of everything: wealth, respect, comfort, and love. Johnson stirred from the corner. "You dey look me like that, why?" "I wasn't looking," Mara said quickly, lowering her head. "You think say I planned for this? You think say now your tears go put food for this house, eh?" "I'll go sell my gold tomorrow," she whispered. "What gold? You don't sell everything where you carry from that rich man house. Wet in remain?" She didn't reply. "See," Johnson said, standing up and pointing at the kids. "I didn't sign up for this. These children? They're your baggage. Your punishment." "Don't say that." "Then what should I say?" he snapped. "We were supposed to be rich. You promised me mansions, cars, not this rubbish life." The argument got louder. Jessica held Jerry's hand tightly. "Let's go outside," she said. But before they could stand, Johnson threw the plastic stool across the room. It hit the wall with a bang. "I gave up everything for you," Mara screamed. Johnson stepped forward, his chest heaving. "And I gave you my whole life, my peace. And for what? Nothing." He grabbed her wrist. She struggled. "Let me go." "Make I go, Abby?" he shouted. He shoved her. She hit the wall with a cry. Jessica screamed. Jerry ran and stood in front of his mother. "Stop it!" But Johnson didn't stop. Mara stood up, her lip bleeding. "You want to fight? Let's fight," she yelled. She pushed him back, grabbed the curtain rod, and pointed it at him. "I may have lost everything, but I'll not let you touch me again." Johnson's eyes burned. He charged at her. She struck his wounded shoulder, the one he got in a motorbike accident months ago. He roared in pain, but he didn't stop. He grabbed her neck. She dug her nails into his shoulder. They twisted. They fought. The kids cried, "Please, stop, stop." But no one listened. In one final moment, they both lost balance. They crashed onto the floor. Still, silent, unmoving. Jessica screamed first. "Mummy!" Jerry shook Johnson's arm. Wake up! No response. The neighbors rushed in. The room was a mess of broken things, screaming children, and spilled blood. Hours later at the hospital, the doctor looked at the nurses and slowly shook his head. They were gone. Both of them. Dead. One from a burst vein, the other from asphyxiation. The kids cried so hard their throats went dry. They held their mother's cold hand until the nurses pulled them away. A quiet funeral followed. Only a handful of people attended. But among them was Kelvin. He stood by a tree, wearing black shades, holding back tears that still found their way down his cheek. The woman he once called his world had died. In a fight she created with her own hands. A grave dug by greed. As the coffin was lowered, Jessica turned and saw him. She ran toward him, Jerry following close behind. They fell into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "We have no one," Jerry whispered. "Please don't leave us again." Kelvin dropped to his knees and held them tightly. "You are not alone. You'll never be alone again." The driver opened the door of the black SUV, and Kelvin gently guided them in. The crowd watched, stunned, as the billionaire who had been betrayed, humiliated, and nearly killed opened his heart again, to the very children that weren't his by blood, but were his by love. That day, Kelvin began the process of legally adopting Jerry and Jessica. That day, hope came back into their lives. But that wasn't the end of the story, because just when life was beginning to blossom again for them, something dark and dangerous returned. 2 years had passed since the dark day at the cemetery. Kelvin Anderson had changed, but not in the way most people do. He was still the billionaire founder of K Cyber Systems, still respected, still admired, still powerful. But he no longer chased boardroom glory the way he once did. Instead, he found his greatest joy in family. Jerry and Jessica were now legally his. They now lived in a quiet, beautiful house on Banana Island. Not the same mansion that once echoed Mara's voice, but a new place filled with peace, laughter, and second chances. Every morning, Jessica would come downstairs in her white school coat, teasing Jerry about who looked more like a doctor. They had both gotten into medical school. Top of their class. Smart. Disciplined. Focused. Kelvin watched them with pride. They were the reason he smiled again. But one rainy night, that smile faded. Kelvin was in his study, reviewing old files, when the sharp pain hit sudden and strong like a hammer, cracking through his skull. He dropped his glass. It shattered. Then everything else went black. Jessica was the first to reach him. She had just returned from night duty at the hospital and saw him collapsed on the floor. She screamed, "Jerry, come quick." Together, they lifted their father. His breathing was shallow. His lips had turned blue. He couldn't speak. Jessica placed 2 fingers on his pulse and nodded quickly. "We need to get him to the hospital. Now." The doctors ran tests all night. By morning, the diagnosis came in like a death sentence. Brain tumor. Advanced. "He might not survive another 3 weeks, one doctor whispered. But Jessica overheard, and Jerry did too. They looked at each other and silently knew what they had to do. They wouldn't let the man who saved them die. They approached the hospital board. "We are qualified," Jerry said. "We've trained for this. We've studied every angle of neurosurgery. This tumor is in a place we've prepared for." "You're too young," a senior doctor argued. "Maybe," Jessica replied, "but we're not too inexperienced." They showed the board their research, their previous mock surgeries, the experimental procedures they had been testing in the university lab. The board hesitated, then approved it. 2 days later, Kelvin lay on the operating table. He was pale, weak, but his heart still beat. Jessica and Jerry stood in their scrubs, side by side, hands steady, eyes sharp. This wasn't just about skill now, this was about purpose, about love. "Scalpel," Jessica said. Jerry handed it. The operation began. Hour after hour passed. Outside, the nurses waited. Other doctors waited. The media didn't know. Only those close to Kelvin were told. His company had announced he was undergoing private medical treatment. Inside the theater, time froze. There were moments Kelvin's heartbeat slowed too much. Moments they had to pause and check everything again. But they never gave up. 8 hours later, Jerry stitched the final cut. Jessica exhaled. It's done. Jerry looked up at the vitals. Beep, beep, beep. A steady heartbeat. A miracle. 3 days passed before Kelvin opened his eyes. His vision was blurry. The light overhead was soft. The room was quiet. And then, he saw them. Jerry and Jessica sitting beside him, both dressed in hospital uniforms, both smiling. Did we win? He whispered. Jessica laughed through tears. Yes, Daddy, we won. Kelvin tried to smile, but more tears came. You saved me. Jerry held his hand. Just like you saved us. They didn't say more. They didn't need to. 2 years later, the joy multiplied. Jerry met Sandra, an intelligent data analyst working on a medical software app. She was kind, soft-spoken, and loved Jerry with the same gentle fire Kelvin once gave Mara before betrayal poisoned it. Jessica met David, a senior accountant at a major oil firm in Port Harcourt. He loved books, dogs, and most of all, her laugh. Kelvin watched both relationships grow. He gave them his blessing. And on a warm Saturday afternoon in Lagos, Jerry and Jessica stood beneath a floral arch in a beautiful open-air garden and got married on the same day. Double wedding, double joy. Kelvin wore a silver agbada, his eyes soaked in proud tears. These children who once had no name, no place, no hope now stood tall, loved, and successful. 1 year later, the circle of joy widened again. Jessica gave birth to twin boys. Jerry welcomed a beautiful baby girl. Kelvin was now a grandfather, but even as laughter echoed through the halls of their home, as babies giggled and tiny feet ran through the living room, Kelvin often sat by the window and looked into the sky, thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the loss, the redemption. The children who weren't his by blood but had become the reason his heart kept beating. But life wasn't done surprising them, because just when it all seemed perfect, someone from the past was about to return. And this time, the secret they carried could shake everything all over again. Rain fell gently outside as Kelvin sat on the back porch of his home in Banana Island. The sky was grey, but his heart was full. Jerry's daughter little Nadia was playing on the tiled floor nearby, laughing as she crawled toward her toy blocks. Inside, Jessica's twin boys were chasing each other, their feet thumping across the marble floor as their nanny tried to keep up. It had been a long journey, but now the house was full of joy. Every corner of the home echoed with life and love. Kelvin leaned back in his chair, wrapped in a shawl, sipping his tea. At 62, his health had fully recovered. His brain surgery was a success. Jerry and Jessica had become respected doctors. Life had given him back what betrayal tried to steal. But peace doesn't always last forever. That evening, as the rain eased, the security guard brought him an envelope. "Sir, someone dropped this at the gate. Said it's personal." Kelvin took it. There was no name on it, just his initials. K.A. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, neat, and one sentence that froze his hands. "There's something you never knew about your own mother." Kelvin frowned. He turned the page over, nothing else. No sender, no explanation. Just that one chilling line. 2 days later, he got another letter. This one had more detail. "Your mother, Elizabeth, wasn't who she said she was. She had a second life. The person who knows the full truth is still alive and wants to speak with you face to face." Attached was a phone number, no name. Kelvin stared at it. His mother had died 15 years ago, a quiet woman, kind, hard-working. She raised him with so much love in their small village in Enugu after his father passed. Could there really be something he never knew? Was it a scam? Or worse, another trap? Kelvin thought of ignoring it, but curiosity gripped him. He called the number. It rang once. Then a voice picked up, deep, calm, Nigerian with a strong Igbo accent. "Mr. Kelvin Anderson?" "Yes. Who is this?" "You don't know me. But I knew your mother. She worked with me many years ago. What she told you about your father wasn't the whole truth." Kelvin's heart pounded. "What are you talking about?" he asked. I can't say it over the phone, the man replied. Meet me. One time. I will explain everything. After that, you will never hear from me again. Where? He gave an address. Somewhere deep in the outskirts of Abuja. I'll come alone, Kelvin said. No, bring someone you trust. But no media, no cameras. This is not a story. It's a truth you deserve to know before it's too late. 3 days later, Kelvin arrived at a quiet guest house in Abuja. Jerry drove him, worried but silent. Jessica stayed back with the kids. The man they were meeting sat under a mango tree, grey beard, white kaftan, cane in hand. His name was Chief Anayo. He stood when Kelvin approached. You have your mother's eyes, he said quietly. Kelvin studied the man's face. You knew her? I loved her, Chief Anayo replied. Long before she became Elizabeth Anderson. What are you saying? He reached into his bag and pulled out a photo. It showed a young woman Elizabeth and a much younger Chief Anayo sitting together under a tree. Kelvin blinked. He had never seen this photo. Your mother was already married when she met your father, Chief Anayo said. But she had left a powerful man. I was that man. Kelvin's knees weakened. He sat. I was forced into exile after a family land dispute, Chief Anayo continued. Your mother disappeared, changed her name, and remarried to hide the scandal. But she was already pregnant. Kelvin's mouth went dry. You're saying, I am your biological father, he said, and I have proof. He handed Kelvin a sealed envelope. Inside DNA test results, old letters, and a birth certificate signed under a different surname. Kelvin sat in silence. The man who raised him was gone, but the man before him had lived with this secret for over 60 years. I never tried to take anything from you, Chief Anayo said gently. I just wanted to tell you before I pass. Tears welled in Kelvin's eyes. This truth didn't erase the pain he had been through. It didn't undo the betrayal from Mara or bring back the years he lost. But it gave him something he didn't expect. A chance to forgive the past. Weeks later, Chief Anayo passed peacefully in his sleep. Kelvin arranged a quiet burial. He didn't tell the world. Only Jerry and Jessica knew. Back in Lagos, the days grew bright again. Jessica's twin boys started school. Jerry's daughter began walking. And Kelvin? He sat one morning on his porch, staring at a painting Jessica had made for him. It was of a tree with deep roots, wide branches, and many names carved into it. Kelvin, Jerry, Jessica, Sandra, David, Nadia, Chinedu, Chisom. He smiled. I lost so much, he whispered to himself. But somehow, I gained more. Because sometimes, the people who hurt you lead you to the ones who heal you. And sometimes, the children you save become the very reason you survive. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.